So earlier today I went through a run with this build on LeBlanc, but let's do a breakdown for her, look at what other relics will go well with her constellations, and let's first look at those constellations. With her 2-star, she has, if you've leveled a champion this game, so this could be any champion, when allies attack, summon an attacking ephemeral LeBlanc. So I believe this does need you to trigger a level on a champion. It won't just happen if you have something that generates level 2 champions as is. They actually have to go through the level up process in order for this to work. Then the 3-star here, round start, you get a fleeting sharpened resolve in hand that costs 0. So this is just a buff that you can target your units with that gives them +3/+2 for the round. So let's look at what relics and things work well with this. First of all, with her 2-star, she does get that ephemeral copy once you've leveled up a champion whenever you're attacking in. So things to look for are ways to attack in multiple times, ways to use summoning a unit, such as LeBlanc. Well, it will be a copy of LeBlanc, so things you can equip her with that trigger on summon, that those will trigger anytime you summon that ephemeral copy. So let's look at some of these options here. First of all, the spectral scissors. These are what I was using in the build I showcased, but this will be leveraged by both her, if you're attacking in with her, and the clone that gets summoned once you've leveled up a champion. So you can duplicate followers that you make ephemeral with this. You can have them get duplicated twice, so you effectively get, you have LeBlanc, then you have the follower you attacked in with, then you have your ephemeral LeBlanc that gets summoned from your level, then you have the copy from the first spectral scissors, which gets hit by the ephemeral copy, and you get another copy of that follower. So you essentially, just by attacking in with 2 creatures, have a board full of 5 creatures attacking, which can be quite good. And then if you just attack in with one other thing, you're already with essentially attacking with a full board just by attacking with only 3 creatures. So spectral scissors can be very good if you don't mind losing one of your units when you're attacking in. Then yeah, very effective. Other things that can work with the summoning of the ephemeral. So we have a couple things. So let's say summon on here. We can see some different things that trigger when summoned. Portal Pals can be effective, though keep in mind she is only 3 cost, so reducing a 7 cost unit by 3. This, while it will work, it's not going to be extremely good. Your units that you get from this are still going to cost anywhere from 4 to 7 mana. So yeah, it won't really accelerate you that much, but this does work with that effect. Siphon Sorrow, this can also work. This, when summoned, will drain 3 health from one of the random enemy units. It can't drop them below 1 health though, so I wouldn't say a particularly strong synergy, but it does also work there. One of the main builds, however, that does work with this is Guardian Orb. So if you have Guardian Orbs, and then normally you'd want to do this with something like Echoing Spirit. This will put a bunch of copies of LeBlanc in your deck, and you essentially have a chance of, when her ephemeral copy of her gets summoned, or if you drop a new copy of her, it will grant epic items to 3 random cards in your deck, and it'll do this, essentially to 6 random cards in your deck. It can potentially hit the same card multiple times, and by having 7 more copies of LeBlanc, you have a much higher chance of hitting LeBlanc with these epic items. This is especially good if you hit the epic item that makes it so when that character dies, you get a rally. That means that effectively every single time you attack in, you get an ephemeral copy of LeBlanc. She dies, presumably, when she, hits their base or they block with a unit. The ephemeral copy will die, you'll rally, and then you can attack in again, generating another copy. It'll get more stuff on your units and whatnot, more epics, and you'll get another rally, and you can just keep attacking in infinitely until you win. So as long as you have units that can attack in, you can keep summoning new LeBlancs and getting more and more items on things in your deck. So this can be quite effective, the on-summon effect from this. So there are some other things that also have summon effects. For instance, you could use a Hymn of Valor, and this will, every time you attack, you'll get a new Hymn of Valor. You could target this on your main LeBlanc, double her stats, double it again. And so you can get a really big LeBlanc using something like this. Typically, if you're doing something like this, you would want a way to get your spell mana back so that you can double her stats even more. This can be especially effective if you are trying to leverage her her 3-star ability, which gives you that free +3/+2 spell. So if you have Yasuo's relic, if we can find that. Oh, I have summon typed in here. That's why it's not showing it. So here we go. So this says when an ally gains stats from a spell, gain twice as many instead. This works really well with the redoubled Valor, which this makes it so you double a character's health and power. So this will double that double. So you get essentially 4 times. And when you're using her 0-cost spell, instead of giving you +3/+2, that's going to give you +6/+4. So using these in combination and then, getting your other one out there, you're really going to be able to get a lot of value out of this. And then you probably want to use something, either, Archangel's Staff or use something like, unfortunately, Lost Chapter and Hidden Tome. These only refill your mana on play, so they won't work on summon. This used to, a long time ago, work on summon, but no longer does. So Hidden Tome, same thing. This only works when you level up a champion. So personally, I would say use the Archangel's Staff if you're doing something like this. This will more guarantee that you can get your Hymn of Valor off. You could also just go without this and just, leverage some of your mana each turn or each time you attack in to increase her stats. That can also be effective. Then let's look at some other options here. Another thing that's really good with her, especially with that 3-star chosen by the stars, it's very easy to target her with that 0-cost +3/+2. That will trigger the Fated here as well as Augment. So whenever you target her, she's going to get another permanent +2/+1. So that will work out quite well, even just like this. So she's a 5/2, but then you cast that 0-cost spell on her. She'll become essentially a 10/5. So she becomes a 10/5. She gets Overwhelm, Regeneration, and Challenger. And some of those stats stick around, so you get to attack in on future rounds when you target her with this. Targeting with her every round is going to give her another +2/+1 permanently, so quite strong there. Really good combo to go along with that. And then, if you do that with the Master Yi relic that we were just showing with the double stats, you can get even more. Potentially trigger her level up on the essentially first attack in. So, she definitely benefits from pretty much any combat relic stuff, more attack in, forging, and whatnot, like Living Weapon, or even better is probably using the Fear Cleaving Axe, because then the ephemeral copies that get summoned will also trigger the Spirit buff. So this gives you attack, boost all units. So both, and if you use her champion spell, Mirror Image, that will also do this attack boost all units. So every copy of LeBlanc you have attacking will give a permanent +1/+1 to your main LeBlanc as well as to each other. So this can be quite strong as well. That's more focused around the individual LeBlanc, though. Her champion spell is just this. It's does 2 damage to anything, and if you've done at least 5+ damage 4 times, then in like an instance of 5+ damage, a single instance of 5+ damage, you've done that at least 4 times, then it costs 2 less, and it just does 2 damage to anything. I wouldn't say there's too much to particularly build around with that. It's not a spell in her starting deck, so you can't really make it cheaper with extra with like Searing Brilliance. You can use the Echoing Spirit to make it cheaper, so you can effectively make it free once you've done that 5 damage 4+ times. You will effectively have a free version of her champion spell, but I wouldn't say there's any particular build around with that. The damage from it is pretty minor, so yeah, wouldn't have any particular recommendations there. Let's continue through some of the other relics that can be good with her. So more on the sort of blue relic side. Typically, you wouldn't need to get to like Chemtech Duplicator where you're at 6 mana gems. You could do this to double both her mirror image as well as doubling the free spell that you get from her 3-star. So this can be effective if your games are taking to the point where you're getting up to 6 mana gems, but I wouldn't particularly recommend going around this. I think it's decent, but yeah, typically you're trying to close out games a bit sooner than that. The build you saw when I first started this had her up to 8 power, so that Starforged Gauntlets was triggered. Certainly being able to drop her on turn 1 is quite nice. That way you can start working towards her level up. Typically she is more able to attack in on the first turn, unless you're going into some super hard nightmares, in which case you certainly having Death's Foil on there will make it easier for you to attack in with her and make sure that she won't die even if they have big units on the board. That way you can trigger her level up and start getting those copies of her being generated whenever you attack in with free attacks and whatnot. Yeah, other things that happen when summoned. Let's see here. I think there's also in this, yeah, there is the Golden Spatula. I typically don't particularly recommend this, but it does give you +1/+1 for every 30 cards in your deck, as well as a random keyword. But having your deck flooded with a bunch of stuff just to give +1/+1 to an ephemeral copy, wouldn't particularly say that's amazingly strong. Guardian Angel can work on her, but I believe they fixed it, so it no longer gives you a copy from her ephemeral copies. You can double check this yourself. It does work if you give her what's called Deathless. Sometime, like, when you're drafting items for her, you give her Deathless. That will work with the ephemeral copies, but this doesn't always trigger. I'd have to test it out again, see if they've changed it recently. But for a while there, ephemeral copies were not being duplicated from this afterwards. But it might work now. Guardian's Orb is the normal trigger that you'd go with off the summon effect, or the Hymn of Valor that we already went over there. Other one that's really big with the I'm Summoned effect, you can use multiple Stalker's Blades, even up to 3 Stalker's Blades. This will make it so, if they have units out there, or enough units, that when you drop her, she can strike 3 times. That'll automatically level her up. Then when you attack in, anytime you summon the copy of LeBlanc, it'll strike 3 times at the weakest enemies, dealing up to 15 damage. So that can be quite effective for making sure if the enemy goes wide on the board, it's very easy for you to, just strike them and get the copies removed. So that can be very effective as well. I don't think there's too much crazy else going on there. I wouldn't recommend using anything like the Jinx payload. This would make it, every time thing that pops out from her, it would discard your whole hand, fill it with pow-pows. She doesn't have really great spell scaling, so this would probably be a negative to you rather than a positive. Yeah, I think this is the only other on summon effect. This can be quite effective here. So if you want, you can have it when you drop her. She stuns 3 enemies, and then anytime you're attacking in, it summons that ephemeral copy of her. That'll stun 3 enemies as well. So very effective for stunning a lot of their board and making sure that you can attack in successfully. So that can also be a reasonable thing to do for very cheap, and yeah, just fun to mess around with. Other than that, standard combat relics are going to be good. She has quick attack, so anything with Challenger, like Lauren Blade Rack, or even just using the Grand Duelist Blade, either way, going to be great. Having Overwhelm on her with Troll King's Crown or with the Beast Within, also going to be very effective to make sure that you're able to push through damage, especially with the buffs coming from the 3-star spell that will work out well as well. She doesn't have a lot of toughness, so having a way to get Banshee's Veil or Spell Shield on her is really good if you just have the open slot. But overall, once you've leveled up, you don't have to worry about protecting your LeBlanc as much, just because you get those free copies when you're attacking in. So you don't have to worry about it as much. But yeah, those are the sort of main builds that I would look at. How you can leverage either summoning copies from her using those on summon effects, or just how you can attack in with her, buffing her stats and whatnot using the bonuses from just like targeting her and using that spell that is generated. So anyway, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions or other things you would like to see, and I'll try to cover them in a future video. Have a good one.